Welcome to the Andy Masur Podcast. I'm Andy, and thank you for being here. Remember, hit that subscribe button if you like what you're hearing, wherever you may be listening across the many different podcasting platforms like Spotify, Google, Anchor, and Apple Podcasts. I've also created a YouTube page, so just search Andy Masur Podcast for video trailers of each week's podcast, and I certainly appreciate you checking us out. Podcast is sponsored locally by Roots Pizza with 4 convenient Chicago area locations. There's sure to be a Roots Pizza near you. Stop in for Quad City-style pizza with a sweet malted crust. And don't forget to order the mozzarella sticks. They are unforgettable and life-changing. For more information, head to rootspizza.com. Today, we'll meet the owner of Obvious Shirts, Joe Johnson, whose creative t-shirt company went from a shirt made for just him to one of the most popular brands in the city. From the Cubs to the Bears, he's got all the teams covered. And Joe is also very invested in making his company charitable. So here we go. It's the Andy Masur Podcast with Joe Johnson.
The Andy Masur Podcast.
It was super important to me that our shirts were very comfortable, very light, airy, easy to wear, easy to wash. I wanted people to really pretty much be their favorite shirt when they put it on. That was important to me, is the comfort and the quality.
Obvious Shirts was conceived and born at the right time.
I don't know if this would work if it happened in any other time period. I really don't. I consider myself very lucky.
The Andy Masur Podcast. Now, here's Andy.
Well, we welcome in Joe Johnson of Obvious Shirts. We thank you for taking some time. I know this is a game day as we tape here, and things get a little nuts for you over there, don't they?
Yeah. Every day is different. Game days, especially when the Cubs are in town, it becomes chaos here right around, I don't know, for a night game, 3 o'clock, and then for a 1:20, fans are out here before I come into work in the morning.
Yeah, it's become a thing. Talk to me about your background. How did you even come to this, and what did you do before this?
Yeah, so t-shirts was never like in the agenda. It was never, I've always had an entrepreneurial focus. I studied economics and rhetoric in college with an area concentration in entrepreneurship. So I always had that, I guess, drive to create my own thing. I did not think it was going to come in the t-shirt business, but here we are. But before I started this, or made a leap of faith, I'll call it, I was selling software for a company called Career Builder in downtown Chicago, and I sold into large hospitals. My territory was pretty much, I covered LA to Baltimore, Texas, Minnesota. So I had a certain I guess, hospital healthcare system with X number of employees. And that's who I help them staff, onboard, stay compliant. So I sold a whole suite of software packages to keep healthcare systems up and running in terms of their staffing and recruiting.
And then one fateful day, you decide that you're going to wear shirts. And I have a picture for those that are going to be watching it on the website here of you with a t-shirt that says simply, Jake Arrieta is good at baseball. I know that's how it started. Why don't you take it from there?
Yeah, I do love that photo because that's the basement of my house where up until less than a year ago, that's where the whole company was ran out of. And my girlfriend is very pleased that we've moved out of the house because it was taking over every floor of the house. But when I was at Career Builder, like my sales team and group of friends that I made at the company, our common denominator that we usually talked about was the Cubs. And this was, 2014 and 2015. I think 2015 was kind of a surprise how good they were, how quick they were. So 2015 downtown Chicago, that consumed all of our, like going to the water dispenser, the water machine, or, the small chat at work was about Cubs and what they were doing and how excited we were. And I'm a season ticket holder, so I live, I live in right field pretty much. It's right next to the stadium, so I go to a lot of games. And I came back from a game and went into the office, and we always start kind of our morning with the Cubs, and we kind of end our day talking about the Cubs. And I just said, it was after one of Jake's 2015 second half starts where, I don't know, he probably gave up like 2 hits or something, struck out 10. But I was just like, I walked to the office. I walked in. I remember this day vividly because I walked in like 15 minutes late. Everybody's at their computer, like looking at me. And I just walked by all of them. I said, Jake Arrieta's good at baseball. And I sat down, and they like giggled. And I'm like, I should just make that a shirt. And literally the guy sitting right next to me is like, hey, I did concert promo t-shirts in college. I know a printer. I can get you one in like 2 weeks. I'm like, done. Size large. He's like, you're going to need some artworks. But I'm like, okay. That's when I started thinking. I took a architectural class in college, and I remember Helvetica font is the easiest font to read. So I'm like, all caps, left justified, period at the end. Jake Area is good at baseball. And I literally created Microsoft Word, and I emailed it to my buddy Joe, who then emailed it to his printer. 2 weeks later, the shirt comes. I wear it to Jake's next start. It was against the Brewers. He struck out 11, went 9 innings, gave up 2 or 3 hits. And I left for a beer in the 3rd inning and got bombarded by people in line, passing me on the concourse. I got stopped by probably 25 people, and I exchanged my contact information with them because they wanted me to make them a shirt. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but yeah, give me your info and I'll find a way to make you a shirt. So I got everybody's cell phone number or business card, and I reached back out to everybody like 3 days later and put their orders in. The rest, I guess, is history.
Yeah, no, you said 2 weeks at that point. I mean, obviously you've streamlined things a little bit here now that you've kind of gone in bulk, I guess, is a better term for it. How long does it take you to go from design to actual shirt now?
So it's gotten exponentially quicker. Well, that depends on a lot of factors, supply chain, and just that's a great question. I'm glad that you asked that question because I think a lot of people don't know the complexities of what it takes to get a shirt made. It's a lot of work, and until we have our own capital, our own printers, which that is the goal to work towards, is to have everything in house. We outsource everything, and we have a select number of printers that we use that know our standards. Because I'm very, I don't know, not OCD, but I'm very strict on quality control. But you have to create an artwork and create an art file, and then you have to get it approved. They make sure we sign off on it, and then it goes in. You have to shoot a silk screen, and you put emulsion, and then you shoot the negative, kind of like photography. Then you have to let that dry, or you can cook the emulsion and be stiffer and harder. And then the longest part is getting that screen set up on the printer and dialing in every screw and every adjustment so it lines up with the platen that you print on, and that the shirt has to be equally put on the platen, and it's got to be perfect. And you have to do that for every single shirt before you let the automatic machine run. So when I first put in the order, I lied. I said it took 2 weeks. I think I got my first shirt ever that I designed for me. It probably took a month because I remember I wore it to Jake's last start of the regular season before the infamous Pittsburgh wild card game and one of the greatest tweets of all time to the banter. But again, I'm very long-winded. Now we got the system kind of down in about 3 to 5 days turnaround, but that's dependent on having the blanks, and where we do custom label. We have kind of our own custom colors and cuts. So a lot of it's just how quickly we can get the blanks ready to be screen printed. So that, a week is probably a very acceptable answer, but it used to, in the beginning, it took a long, long time.
Yeah, I can imagine. And the process. I mean, listen, your name's kind of on it, so I don't blame you for being as quality control heavy as you are, because who wants to put out a bunch of dreck if you put it out quickly and it's awful.
Exactly. I'm glad you get that, because my thing is quality. And then once we get all the shirts in, we quality inspect each and every one. Now, we're not perfect. Some do get out that we couldn't see, but it does a few things. If you quality check the shirt up front and it meets, my approval when it leaves the door, chances are it's not going to be returned. It's not going to be ill-fitting, or it's not going to be, off-centered or crooked, because it's very easy to make mistakes in screen printing. It's a very old process. The Egyptians did it 3,000 years ago. So there's not a better way. DTG, which is like almost like your home office printer, where you pretty much put a shirt under literally it looks like a home office printer times 20, and you put the shirt into the printer, then it shoots it back out. That's a kind of a new thing, but those only last about 10 to 15 washes, where silk screen and the inks that I choose are kind of like the Mercedes-Benz of the ink systems. They're the highest quality, best color, hold their color, don't crack. It'll last you 40 to 50 washes plus. So I take a lot of pride in the quality, and I know people think $30 is sometimes ridiculous for just a shirt with words on it, but there's so many costs and factors that it's not as cheap as definitely not as cheap as it used to be 5-10 years ago, but now extra details, extra eyeballs, extra hands touching every shirt to make sure it's flawless, that's a business cost, and that's a business cost I will pay day in and day out because I put quality above everything.
Okay, so you get ideas and you want to put them on a shirt. Now, yeah, I'm wondering too because you've got a lot of things. Like the one I'm wearing right now is the Wrigley Field clock, and I'm sure that that's something that the Cubs have to sign off on, and licensing and all that kind of stuff. There's a bunch of hoops to jump through, right?
There are so many hoops to jump through. That was the biggest, I guess, eye-opening part of this industry that I had no idea is the speed or lack of speed. It's a very slow approval process. The Cubs have been great. I have to give a huge shout out to Colin Faulkner, Brad Johnson, even the senior buyer, Lenny Little at the Cubs. They have been awesome to work with, and they're super understanding. They are pretty involved in the process, especially when we do exclusives for them, like we did the Ian Happ, Wilson Contreras is an all-star shirts. But like the shirt you're wearing, that idea has been a long time coming, but I did not find the green. Like this might let you into kind of like how weird I am. I could not find the green blank that I liked enough to match the Wrigley iconic, I think it's a Benjamin Moore style green because I see the commercials, but that green, the famous green that Wrigley's painted in, right? The scoreboard and all that. I could not find a green shirt that I liked that matched it. And so I waited for the shirt to get created. And lo and behold, this past year, my supplier came out with a new colorway. And as soon as I saw that green, I was like, now's the time. And it's been our best seller since opening day.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling you before we started to tape. My fiance wanted to buy the sweatshirt before my birthday in May. it was sold out everywhere she could find it, and that's a tribute. I mean, I love the name because it just does seem so obvious that these should be T-shirts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was again. I'm probably boring everybody that's going to be hearing this with my stories, but it's just kind of cool how organic it was. I got when the iPad Pro first came out, I bought it for my downtown job because it's so easy to with the pen and taking my notes, or if I'm going into an appointment, it was so easy to have those notes and then convert them to type, or I can just email them right to my manager. But I remember when I got that, I thought it was the coolest thing. So I was at home one night, and this was a few weeks after the Jake shirt really popped off. Because after I made the Jake shirt for like friends and family and the people at the game, I said, you know what, I'm gonna buy 100 and put them on Facebook, and they all sold in like 45 minutes. And then I was like, I'm gonna do 400, and those all sold in a couple of days. So I'm like, I have something here. And I was just messing with the iPad, and it's just, I'm gonna call it the obvious shirts company. And then over, a few hours of thinking, I just simplified it to like obvious shirts. And then what could be more obvious than our logo being called a logo? And so it just really, I don't know. I'm very proud of the logo. It's my favorite part of the company just because when you see it, you get it. And then when you go to the website, like the hope of all of this was it wouldn't take much storytelling to understand the brand. The brand would be very literal, extremely basic. It's supposed to be basic on purpose. That's part of the joke. So, I love when people give me crap for being so basic and whatever, not creative. I think I'm creative, but that's part of it. That's like, it doesn't bother me when people think my stuff is basic because that was the point. And so it's not for everybody, and that's fine. If you don't like it, that is totally cool. You're justified with your own opinion, but for the people that do like it, I'm going to keep, riding that train.
Yeah, and why not? I mean, it's working. The train is moving down the tracks, and it's gaining some momentum and gaining some speed. I'm kind of curious too. You start to come up with these things. What passes, I guess, in your brain for, okay, this is a T-shirt, this is not a T-shirt. I'm sure there's 1,000 thoughts that go through your head every day. You think, okay, well, this might work, or nah, that's stupid. That's not going to work.
Yeah, man, you ask great questions. You must have like a career in like sports media and journalism and marketing or something like that. So I'm my own litmus test. It sounds corny, but if it's something that I would wear, I'll make it. I I think I have a really good pulse on what Cub fans and what sports fans maybe want or desire. I'm very lucky because people seem to like what I like and have the same, not the exact same interests, but overall we kind of overlap on interests. So a lot of the inspiration comes just from watching the games. I watch every single Cubs game. If I'm not at it, I have it on inning 1 through 9. Like, I listen and I just think of things make a shirt. And taking that a step further, okay, I have a good phrase or saying. Now, how does it look on a shirt? Because some words are long and how it overhangs or underhangs a margin or whatever. Like, sometimes a good phrase is just not going to look good. So I'll tweak it, or I just won't go with it because it doesn't look. Again, it's words on shirts, but you can make words on shirts kind of read, and how you read it should be kind of emphasis on how the message comes across. And so I take that into consideration. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but the plan is to open up ideas in the creation in the community to all the people of the community. I said that completely wrong. The idea is to get other people's involvement, because right now I would say 95% of every shirt has been my idea, and I want to open that up to more people, more fans, and get them involved to strengthen the community of what we're building. And quite frankly, like, I don't have the only good ideas. A lot of people are very talented and creative out there, and I want their buy-in, and I want to make sure if I use their idea that they are happy with how either they're compensated or giving them proper credit. That's big with me, is keeping things original to my creative. And if it's not original, because it's very easy to create a shirt that probably has already been created in the last 20 years across the entire country of America, it's likely that there's duplicates or shirts that might be close enough. I just want to make sure that I do it my way, keep it honest, and get people's buy-in.
So among that 5%, I mean, how many pitches do you actually get? I mean, I saw a couple of them that you were going up with on Twitter, and there was somebody was leaving you some messages and some ideas for shirts. I mean, how many of those have you gone with, and how many do you usually get a day or a week?
Yeah, so it's tough to say. I've probably done about 400 different designs, and so you take 5%, so about maybe 20 were outside involvement. A lot of that's on Twitter. I made the mistake of setting up like an ideas at obviousshirts.com like a year and a half ago, and that got so flooded so quickly. I did not have the time to go through and give everybody their individual idea enough attention. So that I had to shut that down. And people still reach out via email or in DMs, and I'm very bad at DMs, because when I want to make sure every customer idea is heard, but if they're sending it on Twitter, they're going to hop into Instagram and send the same message. They're going to make sure that they're messaging me on all platforms to get their idea out there, rightfully so. But I'm having a hard time right now is managing my time to get those ideas uncovered and work through them and maybe select the ones I really like. I could probably write a very uninterested, boring book about all the ideas I've gotten that were not good. And some of them are good. I'm not saying everyone's bad, but it's tough. For me, it's more in the moment, or less is more. So some people try to get really wordplay heavy, and I love wordplay, but they don't translate to a shirt, even though it's a great idea.
Maybe you should have like a blooper shirt or something like that with all the ones that didn't make it.
Yeah, you know what? This sounds ridiculous. I was trying to create or design like Reddit, and Reddit's great because Reddit you can upvote, and it was super expensive, and I'm still like itching to at least attempt it. But what I wanted to create was a app where it's Reddit type algorithm or type coding, where people can submit their obvious shirt idea like in a given market or for a given team, and based on the buy-in from the community or the other viewers, you can upvote an idea, and then I set like a threshold at 100 upvotes, an idea will make it, or at least have those really good ideas that other people think are really good ideas rise to the top. But that's super expensive to build. I've come to learn.
So I know that you watch pretty much every Cub game, as you pointed out, because last night I was watching And the ball boy Fabian has taken on a whole new cult type of following. I was on the WGN TV morning news today. I actually talked about your hashtag vote Fabian today on the morning news. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was hilarious. But you know, it's that kind of organic situation that you can tweet right away. All of a sudden, I'm looking on the screen and I see Fabian is an all-star. Fabian's a Hall of Famer, and that's how quickly your mind works.
That is the Fabian, and shout out Fabian. He's actually coming by. He's actually coming by at 2:00 to meet the team, and we want to do a little, take some photos and show him around or whatever. But the Fabian phenomenon, that is a perfect example of, I guess, an ideal situation for what we're trying to achieve is capturing the moment, working fast, because we like to move fast because moments are fleeting and we want to capture it, and we want to make sure that fans are buying into the moment, or fans care about the moment, that there is something tangible that they can cherish that moment with, and t-shirts are a perfect vehicle for that. So yeah, the Fabian game, that was probably my favorite game of the year. Maybe the 21-0 game, that was a lot of fun, but at some point after you score 12, 13 runs, it's okay. But last night's Fabian game, and it's called the Fabian game, it should be referred to forever as the Fabian game, even though Willie and Morel balled out. That was so much fun as a fan. And that is the type of stuff that baseball needs more of. It's not, Cubs shirts are great. Cubs logo attire is great. City Connect is awesome, but it's those little moments of just, I don't know how even to describe it. Those fan engaging personnel that's not necessarily a player. It's those are the moments that I love to kind of, I don't know, capture.
Yeah, it's 15 minutes of fame, and you get it on a t-shirt.
Yeah, and then you can remember it, and then you can keep it, and then next year at this time you get reminded of it, or somebody walking down Clark Street is wearing a Fabian as an all-star, and you laugh, and you right away. And a huge aspect of the company that I want to maintain is that if you know, right? So the greatest game, that's not for everybody. That shirt was designed and created for Cub fans. For Cub fans that can communicate without even having to communicate. When you see that, if you're on the Red Line heading downtown and you see somebody across the train stop wearing that, that's a Cub fan and it. So I love that if you know. That's kind of the niche that I would prefer to stay in, but when you grow and scale a company, you get pulled in every direction and you want to follow demand, but you can get lost in the weeds really easy. And I'm kind of lost in the weeds. As we stand today, June 30th, I'm trying to get back on track to get more focus on baseball heavy, MLB player heavy, or do we branch out and start prepping for, the football season and college football and the NBA that's going to be in the winter.
So on the baseball subject too, we mentioned Fabian. Fabian's his own little entity, but you've gotten into a connection with several of the players, and with their help, I'm sure. The one that comes to mind for me right away is Andrew Chafin from last year with the failed starter. I mean, you see that, and it's just yeah, this is what everybody thinks now, because he everybody used to be a starter in their college days, in their high school days. You get to the big leagues and, oh yeah, he's in the bullpen. So what is he, a failed starter? And that's the kind of guy with a personality that you can take advantage of. And I think that a lot of these guys actually seem to get it now. Is that a fair assessment?
100%. That's been the best. That's been the most rewarding part of doing this, because I played baseball very competitively, played all 4 years in college. Thought I could play after college, obviously didn't. But as a baseball enthusiast, in every sense of the word, I studied the game. I nerd out about the game. I watched the game. It was, and the ironic thing is, I don't talk. I've developed very good relationships with the players, but we don't talk baseball. We talk business, and we talk what they care about outside of baseball. And Chafin, he got it right away. And Ian Happ's another guy. Ian Happ reached out pretty early on, he reached out just before the pandemic hit. And he's I love what you're building. I want to be a part of it. How can I help? And for Ian Happ to be I love what you're doing. I get it. How can I help? Was so cool to see, because I look at when I think about Ian Happ, I like get jealous because he's playing baseball professionally, and I'm not. Like that, I don't like look at them as like, oh, a potential all-star center fielder that's has a 130 OPS and is one of the best players in the National League right now. I don't I don't look at them like that. I look at them as like people who have good ideas and have a platform and want to tell their story, or they want to like vibe with what I'm building. And that has been the best part by far. And Andrew Chafin is a great example of that. And that failed starter was his idea. That was not mine. He asked for it, and then it took off. And he has been super supportive of wearing it. He was just in an interview yesterday in Detroit wearing it post game or maybe pregame. But the player buy-in, the fact that they think it's cool too, has been the coolest part of all of this. And I consider myself extremely lucky and privileged that I can do this for a living.
And once one player wears it, everybody wants to wear it because that guy's wearing it.
You nailed it. So I've done such a bad job of like engineering the thought process when I was constructing this business, but the sole goal of putting words on shirts is to get reactions out of people. And by putting words on the shirts, it almost forces your oncoming walkers, or where you're in traffic or wherever you're at, they're kind of forced to read it because it's right on your chest. And so I wanted to make sure, with people being like moving billboards, it sounds bad, but it's what it is under a micro version of our day-to-day lives. Like, you are a moving billboard. And if you're going to display a message on your chest, hopefully it's one you believe in, that message is hopefully going to generate reaction. And I think the reason why the players has caught on, and I think why fans like this shirt so much, is because they feel good when they wear it. They get compliments, hopefully, maybe good or bad. I get a lot of bad compliments or bad comments too, but you know what? It's interaction. And then it leads to, if it's a good interaction or somebody thinks it's funny, then they're doing the work of spreading who Obvious Shirts is and what we're all about for us. We don't pay for marketing. We don't pay for digital ads. We've never done that, because word of mouth until the end of time is going to be your best marketing tool. And I firmly believe in that. And so when players wear it and they get reactions out of fellow players, or they get reactions out of fans, or even if they're wearing it, outside of the stadium and outside of their day job as baseball players, it still carries out the same reaction. And that was the strength and the pillar that I built this company on.
Yeah, I mean, everything from Frank the Tank to Schwisdom, I mean, to things that, you see everybody wanting to get a little piece of that, because it's the thing that, you sit back, and I sit back and I look at your shirts and I go, duh, I should have come up with that. I mean, no slight to you, but I'm just saying that's the way my brain should work,
Yeah, it's literally, I can't tell you how many times people said, it's like the stupidest, best idea at the same time. Like, your ideas are so stupid, but that's part of like I'm not going to call it brilliance. I don't consider myself brilliant by any means. I'm just a fan who likes baseball and likes camaraderie and building a community. But the basic elements of the shirt is kind of what makes it work. And being so literal, especially in a world where, regardless of, where you stand politically, there's a lot of information out there that's not accurate. There's something to be said about being literal and being sarcastic and almost stating how obvious something is, that it's captivating. And that's the lane that I'm staying in.
You mentioned conversations starting as a result of it, be it good or bad. I mean, I was watching with interest on Twitter with the St. Louis people, with the St. Louis is boring shirt that Chris Bryant says one thing, and the next thing it's a shirt. It's causing rifts in the fan bases, but that's what it's there for, and it's supposed to be a fun rivalry. And I think Cubs Cardinals, yeah, it's a heated rivalry, but I think each fan base respects each other enough to kind of say that in tongue in cheek.
Yeah, tongue in cheek is a big aspect of it. I love the rivalry. I sincerely dislike the St. Louis Cardinals so much that I love the aggression that shirt brings out. And shout out to Chris Bryant for, for saying that. You need that too. You need the good and the bad. You need things that, like Eazy-E, RIP Eazy-E said, there's no such thing as bad publicity. And like, that's very true. And so I try to stay in a very appropriate lane, but I love kind of pushing the envelope on what's borderline taking something too far. But the only time I'm going to do that is with Cardinal fans and the Cardinals, because I just dislike them and have so much disdain for them ever since I was 5 years old. I just cannot stand them. So yeah, have fun with it, good or bad, doesn't matter. Gets people talking. The Cubs fans come full support with that, and I haven't seen any Cardinals fans really hold their own against that shirt. I mean, that shirt's undefeated.
Yeah, it's hard to argue the fact that it is kind of a boring place. I've been there a few times myself, and compared to Chicago, yeah, it is.
Yeah, the people there are lovely.
Yeah, they're nice people.
Nothing against the people of St. Louis. It's call a spade a spade. I mean, the stadium's in like the center of everything that it has to offer, and then you walk 5 blocks east and you're out of the city.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
I don't know what else there is to do there.
When you're watching games, and maybe you're watching something other than a Cubs game, and you see one of your shirts in the crowd, whether it be at a Cubs game or not, what does that do for you? How do you feel when you're seeing somebody taking the time to, I don't know, first of all, to buy your shirt, but then to wear it at a game and have it visible on camera?
To be completely honest with you, the first couple of times I saw it, I thought it was the coolest thing, and then and I'm super appreciative, and the wonderful people at Marquee do a great job of locking in on them. They're kind of easy to distinguish in a crowd, and kind of know that's an obvious shirt, and then you can simply go to Google and type the phrase, and ours is the top hit because the title of the shirt is the phrase on the shirt. It was really a cool moment. I remember vividly. It was 2016, and the guy I pretty much wore the Jake Arrieta shirt pretty much that was like my wardrobe for 4 months. And it was the first good weather week. It was the first like good weather. My normal rule is I don't like to go to Cubs games unless there's ivy on the wall. I'm kind of, call me soft in that regard. But if the weather's, nobody likes sitting out in late April or early April when it's 40 degrees and windy. So like the first nice weekend I went to a Cubs game in 2016, and the guy next to me had my shirt on, and that was like a really cool moment. We talked about just how the shirt came to be, but that I'm a very competitive person, have been competitive all my life, and so I kind of used that as motivation to do more. Like, it was very cool, but then my thought process shifted to like, let's keep doing this. Let's keep giving fans what they want. It's nice to see. It's great. It doesn't get old seeing your ideas and your shirts on TV. That never gets old, but I don't relish in that because I'm too focused on what's next. Does that make sense? I know it does. I don't want to sound absolutely like pompous or douchey of me. That's just literally how my brain works. It's a great moment. It was a very good first moment. But it motivates me to do more.
You can't be satisfied if you have your first game in the big leagues and you hit 2 home runs. What are you going to do for an encore, right?
Exactly, and that's why, man, you're just hitting all the good points. Good on you. The reason why I think this works for me is because of what baseball taught me. Like, in life, and baseball teaches you about, you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're one of the top players in the league. It teaches you adversity. It teaches you like the competitive nature, and there's always somebody coming for you. Like, don't ever get complacent. And the parallels to my baseball career and like running a business have been very similar adversity things, similar traits, similar like motivations, reason for getting out of bed, wanting to crush the day. But yeah, my desire is to always be better than I was yesterday. So like my competitiveness is what literally keeps me going.
Yeah, and it's a game of adjustments, and you see things, and you have to adjust to, what your market is, obviously, and what might be the next trend, or what might be the next thing.
Absolutely. You have to, and you have to. And that's why I love being in this community, and being involved with the fans, because the fans are so informed now. The fans, you can get an understanding, or even, kind of like a vibe of what the fans want and what to look for. And, you do a lot of testing with social media. You see how people react to certain things, but this company is for Cubs fans. And I know the goal eventually is to roll out into other markets, because other fan bases have, wanted shirts for their players, and that's going to be great. But this will always be a Chicago Cubs / Chicago company first and foremost. It's really important to me that people know that. But at the end of the day, this is for Cubs fans, and like I want everybody to be proud when they wear an obvious shirt, because not only is that a representation of me and this company, but it should be a representation of that Cub fan. The cliche, like wearing your heart on your sleeve. Well, like wear your opinions on your chest. And if it means something to you, you're going to wear that with pride, and you're going to engage in conversation. You're going to tell people about us, or you're going to, show off your fandom. And it's just all about the fans. Everything that I do is for baseball fans and Cub fans. So that's the joy that I get out of all this.
When you open up a company, the obvious goal is to make some money, to be successful, to have a good time while you're doing it, to see the smiles on people's faces. But you're also a good neighbor. And, I've tweeted this to you before, and, we've lost some tremendous people in my business over the last year,
Mm-hmm.
including Jeff Dickerson and Les Grobstein, and just recently Moon Mullen. And, one of my really good friends, Mark Silverman, went through a terrible situation with cancer and was able to beat it. And who's there for them to help them raise money but you? And I'm showing some of the shirts that you designed for that. And actually, Sylvie's son Mason did the one at the top in the middle with Sylvie
Yep.
is strong. To me, that kind of I talked about the players getting it, but to me that means that you get it, because you can really do some good. And I think you really did you did a great job with the JD situation, and the money that you raised for his son, who's now orphaned at 11 years old. I mean, that's the worst thing that you could ever think of. But you kind of went beyond that, and the shirt is phenomenal. And I think that all the stuff that you've done, and I'm showing folks the Lou Gehrig situation, the Team Mongo with Steve McMichael, it really tears at my heartstrings to know that there's somebody in that community and someone in that realm that understands that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, thank you. Like that when I said like the players and interacting with the players and chopping up business with them is like might be the most rewarding part. This by far, this is a whole different emotion, a whole different feeling. This goes like deep with me. And it's like, this is more of the why, right? The t-shirts are the vehicle to raise awareness, to do some cool designs, but the mission of Obvious Shirts is to give back and to be a good community partner and a good community neighbor. I didn't ever think I could come to this level of being able to provide to charities, and like that was not, I'll be honest, that was not in the plan, but that has become such a huge aspect of why I love this job and why I love doing this. And more so, it takes a lot of time to do this. Like, we're a company of 3 people. Up until a year ago, it was just me and my girlfriend helped. We've hired incredible help that's allowed us the fortune, because when you spend time doing a charity, which is a lot of work, especially when you sell thousands of shirts, it takes a lot of time away from the rest of the business. That is time that I will always, always happily sacrifice the good of the company for the good of goodwill and giving back, especially, guys like Sylvie, who I grew up listening to, Steve McMichael, my father passed away, but that was his favorite Chicago Bear. And like, with JD was my guy for everything Bears. I would always go to JD to be like, if I heard rumors or rumblings, like, go to JD. JD will, if it's true, JD will be talking about it. If it's not, then it's a rumor. but the connections with everything, it means a lot to me. So that's why I wanted to get involved and give it my all, because it mattered. And I'm super, super blessed that I had a very good mom. I was raised by a single mom, and she taught me like super early on to give back and how important that was. And, the job I had before this, I made really good money, and I was living on the 31st floor overlooking the Chicago River in downtown Chicago. Great money, great life, great gig and all that. And what I learned from that is that I don't need that much money to make me personally happy. I don't need much. Like, I don't. I have my mortgage, my car, and some time for me and Grace, my girlfriend, to maybe go on a trip or two a year, maybe. Other than that, I don't want the money. I want to give away the proceeds that come in from the shirts. Like, so yeah, I'm talking in circles again, but that's been by far the most rewarding part, is understanding that I have now an impact to do good, and I'm going to do, to the best of my ability, try to do as good as I can with that time and money that I have, because they need money more than I do. I'm not too worried about money anymore, having had it and didn't really have the happiness that I have now. I have freedom and happiness now. I don't have nearly as much money as I had back then, but it doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is the creative, making Cub fans happy, and giving my time and money to places that are deserving of it, and all of those were very deserving of it.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, there are a lot of folks that will buy those shirts that know those guys from being on the radio, and that's great. I mean, because that means that they're doing the right thing. They're doing their jobs by kind of letting you in a little bit. I've traveled with these guys, and I got to know. I've done games with these guys. I've gotten to know their families, and to see somebody else that's kind of outside of our little community of broadcasting take such an interest and such a care. It really it hit me, and it struck me so hard that I said to my fiance, I said, we're buying all these shirts. We're going to buy 2 or 3. We're going to buy them for our families. We're going to buy them for everybody, because I don't care. I don't care if we even use the shirts. We just we got to buy the shirts, and we did.
And thank you for that. And I think what you said is like that shows the power of sport. Like, sports are powerful. Sports are, you call it an escape, you can call it a pastime, whatever. Sports, they matter like a lot to a lot of people, and I'm one of those people. When I was working downtown, I had a big void in my life because I wasn't involved. For the first 18, from ages 4 to 21, I was an athlete, and then you go into the real world in corporate America, and then that consumes you. And I was really missing my passion for sport. Whether it's Cubs, Bears in the fall, Bulls in the winter, college throughout, whatever. But like, with guys like JD and Sylvie, like, you kind of become like, you feel like you become extended family, because you're with them every day too. You're not physically with them, but their story, you get to know them as a person, and you can clearly see how they talk and articulate and carry themselves. Like, you feel like them really well. And so when I found out about Sylvie, like, I had to help. When I found out about JD, like, the JD thing I was like devastated when I found that out, because I think all of us found out like near the end, and he did such an outstanding job of not only doing his job duties and doing it well, but then it kind of felt like a bomb when we all found out, and I just had to help. Like, I don't know, like, I credit my mom, because my mom was very good about that when I was a kid, and like, it just really stayed with me. So shout out to my mom, because she's the reason why I'm like super, I just feel really fortunate that she was my mom, because I had a pit in my stomach, and the only thing that can make it go away is to help in any way I can.
All right, before we let you go, let's end it on a little bit more of an upbeat note here. The store that you opened, and I'm going to flash up the address for folks that are in the area that visit the corner of Clark and Grace, and I ride my bike past it all the time on the way to the ballpark. What was the thought process in going brick and mortar rather than just keeping it online? And how big of a risk did you take?
Great question. The brick and mortar was kind of just, I had the fans in mind. I didn't have, of course, it's a big risk. Like, I have, this whole thing has been a big risk. Like, when I first did this, I was I was in a bad spot leaving a very well paying job to, I have to go eat whatever I hunt. That's how you, like, you only eat what you hunt. So if I believe in it, like, I've never been one to shy away from risks, especially if you're confident in the ability. So the same thing with the store is, I didn't know anything about retail. Holy crap, it's a lot more. It's, again, a lot more than I ever thought, with, the building and the rent and then staffing it and then having a new, like, system to monitor that side of the inventory and doing transfers. Like, whoa. But I did it because the fans wanted it. I felt like fans wanted it. I felt like so many of our, customers wanted to get a specific shirt for a specific player, which we pride ourselves in kind of offering as many shirts for Cubs players as possible. They want to, if they're coming to a game and Kyle Hendricks is starting that night, they might go on a whim, decide I want a Kyle Hendricks shirt, and they can stop in and get it. So that was the reason why we took that, like, risk, I guess, is because fans had asked us for years, and I just said, why not? Like, let's see how it goes. It's exceeded expectations, but we're a small company. We're 4 people. So it's a lot to take on and, spend our time wisely, making sure that all of our bases are covered, no pun intended. But yeah, it's been good overall, but it's been a very, very big learning lesson. Did that answer your question? I'm really bad.
It certainly did. No, it certainly did. Yeah. I mean, hey, listen, it's good on you. I mean, there's too many people that come up with an idea and they're afraid to follow through on it because of all that risk. And, you didn't shy away from it. And I love the analogy about sports, because you know what? Certain people, and I think I'm kind of wired the same way, you need the challenge, you need the competition, whether even if it's with only with yourself. You need it. And it seems to me, and not knowing you very well, but just knowing about you and your story, that's you to a T almost. And pardon that pun.
Yeah, no, that was a great pun. A+ pun. I think the reason why it succeeds is because I do put 100% of my authentic self into it, and I'm very confident in my ability. When in baseball, like, the one difference is when you play baseball and you go out there and guys throwing 92 miles per hour, you can't control him. You can't control what he's going to throw or where he's going to throw it. You can only control the fact that either you hope you prepped right or guessed right or put a good swing on it. In business, I can control my destiny. And so that is what excited me. I did have days of doubt. I did have days of, like, what am I doing? This was a bad decision, especially in the 2017 year when I just quit and went full time. But yeah, I appreciate you making that, like, correlation. You just have to have confidence in yourself, and I do, and I'm very competitive and very driven, and it's now the customers and the fans that keep me motivated to keep getting better, because it's easy to get complacent, and I have a long way to go until, like, I would consider this a success. I don't consider this a success. I consider the amount of help and money raised, I consider that a success, because I'm very, very proud of that. But in terms of individual goals, I don't consider it a success just yet. But we're on a good trajectory.
Well, I'll let you go. I just want to wish you the best. Keep up the great work over there. Keep that brain going, because I'm fascinated every time I see one of those new ideas that pop up on Twitter and one of those new ideas that pop up on a shirt in the stands.
Yeah, and Andy, thank you so much for. I mean, your persistency was incredible, and I'm sorry that it took this long to get us to do this. But thank you for not giving up and understanding. And it was a pleasure talking and rambling with you and talking way too much, but I'm a passionate guy.
The Andy Masur Podcast. Now, here's Andy.
That's going to do it for this edition of the Andy Masur Podcast, sponsored by Roots Pizza. Head to rootspizza.com for more information. I'd like to thank Joe Johnson of Obvious Shirts once again for joining us today. Also, please hit that subscribe button wherever you're hearing this podcast so we know you're out there and enjoying what you're hearing. If you want to get in touch, head to our Facebook page, the Andy Masur Podcast, and you can leave a comment right there. Also, we're on YouTube with clips and highlights of each episode of the podcast. That's it for this episode. Many thanks to the Big Earn, Ernie Scatton, the big voice man, for his help as always. And again, thanks to Joe Johnson for joining me today. And mostly, thanks to you for listening. Until next time, it's Andy Masur saying, play nice, kids. Take care.
Andy Masur. Hi, pal.